What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, November 1st of 2023 for episode 97? I hope everybody had a fun, happy, healthy Halloween yesterday. No one got any awful candies or anything like that. No one gave out candy corn because nobody likes candy corn. So this is the part where I would normally make fun of David. But David isn't here. He's currently backpacking across the Mojave Desert, trying to figure out his true gender. So let's hope when he comes back, he's two souls or something ridiculous. Then we can make fun of him. But no, David's not here. He had to go do some other stuff, but he will be back next week. Before we jump into this week's show and everything, give a like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go look for us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show. So quickly, last week's show, we had a blast talking to Derek Evans. If you don't know, he's a former January 6th political prisoner, and he's also running for U.S. Congress from out of West Virginia. Really good dude, America First guy. And, you know, he needs small donations. So if you're listening to this, go donate. Go to his page. Just go look up Derek Evans. You can find his page. Probably don't Google him, though, because Google will probably try to tell you all the worst about him because Google sucks. So go use Brave. Go use that search engine and that whole everything. So this week, you know, what we like to do every once in a while on this show, we like to get local. And lately it's been local back in my hometown in Manchester and Jersey and stuff like that. But this week, I'm getting local over in the town that I currently reside in, the one that I've been in for a while now, over in Poughkeepsie. So I have on Bill Reuter. He is a candidate for Poughkeepsie Town Board in the 1st Ward. What's going on, Bill?
Hey, Alex, how are you? And thank you so much for having me on the show. It's good to be caller or show 97.
Yeah. So, you know,
it's a good number.
Yeah, it's a great number, almost to 100. And, you know, it's about time that I kind of got into Poughkeepsie. Now, it's interesting. We just met recently. I decided to put my money where my mouth is a little more, going to join the Republican committee in my area. And, you know, I met you. And like I always do, I kind of just subtly throw in there, I have a podcast. You took interest, and now here we are. And I'm always pumped. And I'm hoping that I could talk to more candidates, more committee members and things like that to get the local touch here. So you are running for, you know, the candidate for town board, the 1st Ward. So first of all, why are you running, and what's the importance of having, you know, good, strong members of a town board? Because everyone knows federal. We all pay attention to House of Representatives and the Senate, president, but too many people don't pay attention local enough, and local is where the magic happens. So, you know, explain your motivation and why people should really care about, you know, their town board.
Yeah, it's a very important, position. And you're absolutely right, Alex, because people do not pay attention. They pay focus on the national scene, but the local politics and the local agenda is really where it's happening, really where it's going to affect your life. Yeah. So I got into this. I retired from a major corporation and had spent, you know, years in that as an administrator, as a, manager, as a consulting principal. And, you know, there, when you had that type of work, you would go into companies, go into businesses, go into governments and consult on what the best practices are. Okay, so what's wrong? How do you make it more efficient? And how do you make a profit? Okay, and that was my role. I mean, basically, if I didn't succeed in that role in my business life, you know, I didn't have a job. So what I hope to bring, and every town has the opportunity. Every town has the opportunity to be more efficient. You know, people, and I'd like to take that experience and bring it forward. And I'm excited about it because I've retired from one part of my life. And what I'd like to do is take that experience, and I'm excited about affecting change, positive change in, you know, the community. Meaning, you know, how do you make your budget more efficient? How do you procure efficiently? How do you hold the line? People say hold the line on taxes. Well, I'm more of a, how do you cut the taxes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And, you know, so if you say you're going to hold the line, then your goal is not to really cut them. So there's got to be efficiencies. There's got to be ways. There's got to be other ways to affect, revenue other than the current model. So, a town should not always obtain their taxes or their revenues from property owners, okay, from taxes. And so those are kind of the things, some of the things that I see as the reason why. And, I live in the community. I've been here since, I don't even want to say a year, but, 1963.
Wow.
So, okay, I said it. So, so I often tell the constituents that I'm still good at walking up the stairs, but, I have a little problem. I'd be careful going down the stairs. So, but I've been here to see this community grow. Okay. I've been here when Route 9 in the town of Poughkeepsie was one lane, actually two lanes, one lane north and one lane south. I've been here when there was a store called Bradley's, Bradley's doubled as a department store and a food store.
All I remember is when Bradley's was a department store. I'm from Jersey, and there was one there, and there was no food part of it. It was just a department store at that time.
Right, right. So we were lucky we had services when I was a young person, and I've seen the change, and I'd like to continue to be involved with the next step of the evolution of the town of Poughkeepsie. I've walked in the community. There are approximately over 4,300 voters in the first ward. So it's not a small segment.
And that's a good size.
So and I've walked to every single home, and I'm going back now, seeing people that I missed and trying to knock on doors. You don't hit everyone the first time. People want to know that you're there to represent them, that you as an individual will care, that you will work to make the town more efficient, that you'll be there. One of the things I do, and I often explain, I'm not really a professional politician. This is sort of the first time I've been involved in politics, and we can talk about that at some point. But
sure.
I put my telephone number on the card. All right. You can check a lot of political palm cards and you might not see their personal telephone number. So that's the way I intend to operate. I really want to represent everyone in the community. And that's my goal. I represent them. I feel strongly about that. I don't bring a national agenda to the table. And there shouldn't be any in a local town. You're talking about effective services, making sure that the constituents receive, good services for a reasonable price. And so that it's kind of exciting if you can get a change going in the community or in a town and make it more efficient. So that's why
It definitely is. And it's good that, you're coming in with, a lot of good intentions. And I want to know, like, specifically, what are your main issues that you're running on that you see in the town of Poughkeepsie that you think you could improve on? You mentioned the budget, you're talking about services. What specifically would you try to bring to the town board in order to improve some of these things, your main issues?
Right. So one of the things on the back of my palm card, if you will, but is very near and dear to me, is that I'm a strong supporter of law enforcement and security. So we have a situation in the town where we need to relocate our police from where they are on Tucker Avenue.
Yep.
All right. So, and I have to say, in all the years that this has been an issue, kicking down the road, kicking the can down the road, between Democratic administrations and Republican administrations, it never got resolved. So, Jay Baisley and the current board have taken an initiative to get our police station moved. And so, there was a working group and there was 4 or 5 buildings identified, and we need to go budget that out and see what the viability is and then progress forward. So
that's really with that. As a constituent, I'm here and they were going to put it on Poughkeepsie Day School was one of the places presented. Now, I know it's not going in that area, but that would have affected me directly where I live.
Right.
How do you explain to a constituent that more than likely their taxes may go up? Or will they go up if a police station is presented near them? Because I know that was a concern for us going here, where if that station goes up here in order to build it, in order to maintain it, it's within our area, the taxes are going to go up and we're going to have to see that, especially in a time where everyone's pinching pennies. How do you explain to a constituent the importance of getting the police a new station and why it's something that they should want to participate in?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of issues there. I think what the general public in the town of Poughkeepsie may have heard when you mentioned the day school is that was something that the town had considered to do diligence on the town to say this is a potential that we may want to move, and that was the entire town hall and the entire police emergency. So due to and that was a project. So due to the costs, that it was determined that that's not going to be viable anymore. So this issue is separate and apart. Okay, this issue is a building, and that we need to relocate our town police for it's an older building. There's safety issues and things, and it's evolved to the point where our police officers in the town of Poughkeepsie, those who don't know, respond to over 53,000 calls a year.
And they absolutely need a new home. I've been in that area, the town hall area. It is absolutely, It's not an acceptable building for anybody to work in.
So we want to do the right thing, but think of it in terms of this way. But my assessment of the moving the town police is that it won't have any effect on increasing the taxes, because and of the other kind of misinformation that was out there about the other planned project is that you have one important thing to consider. You have the sale of the existing building. Town of Poughkeepsie has offers on the current site, believe it or not, in the millions of dollars.
Which is shocking, to be quite honest.
Well, I mean, it's a warehouse. It's kind of a warehouse building. So that's a valuable piece of property for somebody who needs a warehouse. Very valuable. So it's in the millions of dollars. So you can do a lot with that money. Just like the other project that was overinflated by the Democratic Party for political purposes. When you get done with the grants and all the other things, you still have the sale of your property, of the existing town hall or the existing building. And so in this case, that's the right thing to do for the town. That's the right thing to do for our police officers. And I mean, I do see the point of having everybody in one town hall, in one building, in one group. But it's not at this point. We're not going to be able to do it. And we can plan to do that, and that may be a future thing to do. But the current town hall is efficient as it is. Okay, and then we need to take care of our police. So, and I really do is that we need to talk fiscal responsibility. Okay, and that's another one of my goals. So there are some in opposing parties, the Democratic Party, that want to, as an example, one of the things they were proposing is the new Green Deal. So some of them are at the point where, and this is the current campaign running against the current Republican administrations, they want to get rid of all the gas vehicles immediately.
So I have a quick question for you with this bill, because you mentioned, initially when we were talking, you in local national politics shouldn't really get involved. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that's possible anymore. I think there was a time where both Democrats and Republicans, realized that local is different, right? That there are things that we need to come together on because communities are not the same as the nation.
Right.
But I think what we're seeing with the current Democrat Party is there is no separation between their national plan and their constituents down low. Now, obviously, you'll get reasonable ones, right? You'll get ones you could talk to. But the moment they get in a group, the moment they get in a party, there has to be lockstep. And I feel like that's been something that, being a conservative my whole life and everything, it's something that Republicans and conservatives struggle with. because we actually have some principles and we actually, like to stand up for ourselves and want to do what's right. But I think at times, like, I know a ton of Republicans say the same thing you do. We need to, separate the national and local.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can anymore, because I think that there's a point where we're busy separating it, but they're busy trying to shove down the same exact thing they're trying to do in Washington. And the people, the constituents, are only paying attention to CNN. They're only watching MSNBC. They're only hearing the national. So when we're coming at them with our local plan, they're just like, but wait a minute, that makes no sense. Like, so how are you trying to go? Because I understand the wanting to separate them. But like you said, they're going with the Green New Deal. That's in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Hamas caucus. And what they are trying to do up there,
Right.
and, President Joe Biden has endorsed that as well. And that's what people know. So they're using this catch-all phrase to kind of get people that are fairly ignorant of politics into it. So as a person that's at like the base level, one of our like vanguard members in politics or trying to become one, how do you combat that?
Well, yeah, and that's a very good lead in, Alex. But, there's a politician that I admired, and you may see films on him, and I don't know if you remember him. I do. His name was Tip O'Neill.
Yep.
Do you remember Tip? Okay.
I've heard of Tip. I wasn't around for Tip really, but
okay.
I've heard of Tip.
Well, I watched him in action, okay, and he had a famous saying, and I don't know if you know what that is, but I'll say it. All politics are local.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Okay. I mean, people might say it and people might think it. I mean, he's a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so back in the day, when you said something like that, it would resonate with me because I have been to every door. Okay. I have spoken to most of the residents in person in their front door. Okay. I listen to them. I understand what their needs are. I take it back. Okay. And it changes. From when I started this campaign, I've changed a few things on my palm card. I've changed a few things on my approach, because that's what the job is. Okay. So you have to start by listening. All right. You have to start with any good leader by stating or affecting a common ground. Okay. You can't go in as this, we are the town of Poughkeepsie and the Democratic Party has done, and come out and, make accusations. There was one today on our supervisor, Jay Basley. They accused him of financial, campaign fraud. And it was found not to be true in the Hudson Valley News. They accused him of corruption in the past. Okay. So you're not going to get anywhere in a community as a leader by starting the conversation accusing somebody of being corrupt. Okay.
Well, I mean, they're using the Saul Alinsky tactic of, just fire away, get that headline. But then the retraction is never. So the thing is, and that's the tough part, right? As someone being on the defensive when they just launch these accusations.
Right. So I think if you can begin to control the conversation, I mean, it's awful hard when you're, say, a supervisor and you're seeing all these articles or things being put on mailboxes and all these kind of things. But as a leader, you have to, kind of channel the conversation and control the conversation. The tricky thing that this group has done in the town of Poughkeepsie, we are the town of Poughkeepsie, is that they've created another organization. And if you look at their propaganda, they're disassociating themselves as liberal left-wing Democrats. So when you read "We Are the Town of Poughkeepsie," they're acting as conservators. They're saying very conservative things. So the trick that they're trying to pull and trying to fool the voters, and I don't think the town of Poughkeepsie voters are going to fall for it, is that it's sort of like a Trojan horse. So we're saying that we're this conservative, and we're going to increase, and we're going to have lower budgets and lower taxes and do all these great things for the town. And then on November 8th, election day, after the day after election, the Trojan horse opens
Yep.
and all the liberal Democrats come out and they say the same things that they did before, like defund the police, like open borders, like calling the town of Poughkeepsie a sanctuary town or declaring it. So they've said it before, and they will do it again. But
100%.
they're denying that they've ever said it, even though they're on record. So that's a national issue. So that's a difference. So that's that's a difference between a member of their own party, a past member, a person who I admired as a Republican and a conservative, who feels all politics are local because you're listening to people, your constituents. Their approach is we're going to take the national agenda of open borders, migrant cities, and bring it, imply it, or impose it on the constituents in the town of Poughkeepsie. So it's dangerous. It's a very dangerous. They're coming at it in a chameleon manner, a Trojan horse manner, and that's the thing. You can as an adult, I mean as a real effective leader, representative of your community,
Yeah.
the last thing that you would do is begin with accusations of fraud, corruption. And, we don't need in the town of Poughkeepsie. I mean, this is not New York City.
Nope.
We don't need in the town of Poughkeepsie. God forbid if these people win, because our town will never be the same. So it's a constant. So to answer your question, it's constant conviction.
Yeah.
It's a conviction to say I'm going to stand by my morals. I mean, that's one thing about me. You may not like what I say, and you may not be convinced of my policies or whatever, which are very conservative, but I'm not going to change them and say we are the town of Bill and create a whole another organization and then try to make a fake out of it. It's not.
And one thing that people need to remember, because me and you are both, more on the right, more conservative side. And when we say we're not going to change things, we're not going to change things without evidence. Because I'm pretty sure you said you walked around, you talked to your constituents, and you did change some things that were important on your palm card. Right now, obviously, we have strong moral convictions that we're not going to budge from. But there are things that if there is reasons and it makes sense, and this is what people need to understand about conservatism, we don't change for change's sake, which is what and I don't even call them liberals anymore because that's an offense to classical liberalism, which was, an actual functioning thing. I call these people leftists. They're all leftists at this point because there are no liberals left in the Democrat Party. But, you're just looking at it. And so we will change if there is evidence and if there's reason to change, but not for change's sake. So when they're coming out and they're saying they want the Green New Deal, they want all, gas cars gone immediately and things like that. How do you combat this? Because most people don't know. They hear electric, they hear environmental, they hear climate change, which, changes all the time. In 10 years, they're going to be, now they're calling it, I think, a climate catastrophe. I think that's the newest name, just to drum it up some more. But how do we explain to people that while they're saying that electric's going to help, in reality, it's going to cause so much more pollution, right? Because coal mines, I think 30, 40 plus of them are popping up in China, which they have no regulations, is going to pollute significantly more. And solar and wind aren't powerful enough to really power anything. And all they do is they chop down trees and they put us in water. They put the offshore sounds great. Yeah, let's put a whole bunch of metal in water and let's see if that doesn't affect the ecosystem. And then on top of that, they're making batteries. So you have to do the lithium mines, the cobalt mines that are done in third world nations with little kids working in them, causing more pollution. So how do you get across to people that just hear Green New Deal, electric's better, and this is all they're getting shoved down from school age, all the way up and everything? How do you explain it without getting into as much detail as I just did? Because you do that and they're going to glaze over, right?
Yeah. So again, it's very important to go to people's. I've been surprised. Okay, because I'm a busy person. If I have somebody knock on my door, hey, what do you want? People in this community are so pleased to have a representative come out and actually ask for input and obtain input. So explaining that, and as I do, I stop at the houses, and this is one way, okay, and I'll get into the budgetary thing later of how you stop it, but the needs, there's a lot of working families here.
Yeah.
Okay, majority. So they're concerned about and afraid about the rising taxes, which, by the way, the town of Poughkeepsie comprises 30% of their tax bill. Most of it is the school system. They're concerned about rising fuel prices, kids, security, crime, right? When you begin to communicate to individuals that, hey, we are the town of Poughkeepsie people want to declare migrant, to declare a sanctuary town, and that there's going to be maybe tents or maybe buildings or maybe a vacant home next to them that's going to be occupied, because that's on the agenda. When I described as an example, or as your example, the new Green Deal, that's going to drastically increase the tax burden. So you cannot take a town where the tax rate is so very high and say we're going to take all these vehicles and get rid of them because it's really dirty, and do it all at once and spend millions and millions of dollars to buy new electric vehicles, charging stations, infrastructure. So it's sort of like we used to say in some of my farmer friends in the early days in the Poughkeepsie area, you're putting the apple cart before the horse.
Yep.
And that's sort of what they do. The other thing I say is that let me put it this way. I received a lot of input as a new quote unquote candidate. They didn't realize I used to be a campaign manager and did a few things. So I listened to all the input, and the smart people in the Republican Party says, don't knock on the Democrat doors. They'll never vote for you. Okay. So there's 4,300 voters, and they were sending me a list that contained 1,200 people. I said, well, I'm never going to win if I just go to those places. No. Okay. So I went to every single home, crossed out the party line. Well, I still peaked when I went there, because when in the homes that had 3 Democrats or 4 Democrats, I was a little nervous walking up there, okay? So here's what happened. When I went there, and this is a very interesting thing that the learning experience, and this is getting to the root of your question of talking to people and explaining. They all said to me, we haven't seen a Democratic politician at my door in 15 years. They don't care.
That's incredible.
The party does not care. And so you have to reach out, and you have to be impartial, common sense across party lines, and discuss the issues. They don't do that. And if you ever notice, this is very apparent when you're driving around, look and see where my signs or the Republican signs are, or Jay Baisley's signs, the supervisor.
Yep.
Pretty much each one of them is on a lawn. The Democrats put them up on intersections because they don't believe that they should go talk to their residents and get the input. So to combat it, it's really about communication. And the other thing I'm a proponent of, and we did this in some of the other places that I've had done political work, get outreach for the community.
Yep.
Have advisory boards. So you're involving residents, budget advisory committee, parks and recreation advisory committee. And so at least, residents, constituents want to be heard. So if you want a committee on, getting electric vehicles, part of that is explaining to the public what it's going to cost. And so a lot of times on national politics, you don't have a choice because it's kind of forced on you.
Yep.
But local communities, that's where the rubber meets the road. You got to make your budget. And in the federal government, you don't have to make your budget.
Which is ridiculous. But so how do
Right.
we get more outreach going? What are your ideas? You talked about the committees, but I have to say, just being someone who I enjoy politics, I ingest it all the time. I hear it every day. I listen to it about it every day. But I know that you can find the town board meetings and when they are, you have to look online. Where are the calendars being sent out to people? Where are the little mailers being sent out if an advisory committee is being formed and things like that? Because I feel like there are many people that would participate local, but they don't know how to start. And it's very rare that you're going to get somebody that just shows up, right? They have to have something that tells them where to go, what to do, because it's a little nerve wracking. Like I said, I went to the committee meeting for the first time a few weeks ago. I it was a little nerve wracking. I didn't know what to expect, who to go. I was a young guy and just coming in. I didn't know people were going to be like, get out of here. You know what I mean? So if you get something like that, like you said, making people feel like you care about them, even that little flyer, like, hey, here's your town board. We're setting up these things. If you'd like to be involved, mail this back. Like, I feel like that's something that obviously you'd have to fit into a budget, right? In order to make these things work, and it costs money. Nothing's cheap. But I feel like if you're talking about outreach, if you're talking about getting people involved, telling them to look online or on Facebook isn't enough because, like you said, we're all busy. No one's going to go do that unless they are
Right.
seeking it out. But I feel like there needs to be a better way to let people know. And even if you get 2 or 3 more people to show up, that's 2 or 3 more people active in a community, and that's huge for
Right.
communities.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm a proponent of that, and I call it outreach. But I've participated in budgetary committees and advisory committees, and it's sort of back in the day before the website, it was word of mouth. So I remember getting, when I moved to a community, and this is something that the Republican committee can do, or any Democrat committee can do, is that, when you move in, there's a move package, you can come in and say, here's your political parties, get involved. The Republican or the town of Poughkeepsie is very good at coming to community events, you know, uh, outreach with the police station,
Yeah.
coming in and saying, and having flyers there and information, come to the town board meetings. Here's what's at stake. A lot of stuff goes on at these meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And, and sometimes, I'm telling you, these meetings I hope to bring a sense of humor to the meetings. I hope to bring a sense of maybe a little more pizzazz to the meetings. But, a lot of the stuff is a boring stuff. You're reading resolutions and you're going through. So I think more, and there are a whole set of other meetings. There's assessment meetings. There's all these different things. There's budget advisory. There's budget thing. So some of them are not typically at the board meeting, but we just had Duchess. I forget the name of the group now, but it was Duchess. Recreation came in, and they have a play. So they were presenting the fact that come to it was Duchess Community College.
Yeah.
With their play. And they were referencing, the same things going on at Vassar, come out to the local communities. And then so when you go to those events, have something presentation about, come to the Poughkeepsie board, here's what government is. So much, much more of that. And I agree, because there's more people at the board meeting now because it's an election year. So it would be reasonable to say that the people that are there speaking against the current board, they're there for their own self-interest. So at the end of that, you'll see a waning, a waxing of, it'll be less people.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden election year will come up and then things start heating up again. So, but overall, there needs to be an increase in the participation and the awareness.
Certainly.
And the stuff with the committee meeting, I thought it went okay. We're in the middle of a campaign, but
yeah.
I think one of the members introduced you.
Yep.
And I came in front of the committee. It was very interesting as a candidate. And, I've been around since 1963, but many people didn't know who I was. And I started talking about, some of the old time places and who I went to high school with and everything. And many of the people in that committee didn't know what I was talking about.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, I used to be the young guy.
So, you, like you said, you came in the early 60s. How much has a lack of a community leader really affected the way local politics works? Because there used to be a time where there was a few community leaders everyone kind of knew who to turn to and things like that. That would, you would figure out things that way. Even if you weren't going to the local board meeting, someone was, then you can go and talk and you could figure things out.
Right.
Have you seen the fact that, a lot of the times in the suburbs, if you're not talking to your immediate neighbors, that's about it. Like maybe saying hi, sharing pleasantries. Is there a way to kind of bring back that sense of community that, the internet, social media has made us feel so distant, even though we're all in each other's homes and seeing everything? It's like, but we're not a community like we used to be. So is there any way you think to combat that, or do we just kind of have to go and mold with the current times here?
Well, it's Poughkeepsie in the town is a little tough because I mean they have neighborhoods and they have neighborhood associations.
Yep.
And so but things are a little more spread out. So if you're in the city, if you're in Queens, you have, you got people on the block, you have a block party, it's a little different. So I think that, one of the things that there's a couple things I'd like to do. And one is to establish neighborhood associations. So that I feel a neighborhood association is an outreach of the government. Okay. A little different, but the government will have a voice through the neighborhood association. If every neighborhood, and there's a lot of neighborhoods that do have this.
Yep.
But do the public figures go to the neighborhood association meetings? And do we outreach to that? So I think that's something that would be a very good opportunity because that's a two-way street, and then you'd be able to find out what events are going on and then what's happening in the government. So we shouldn't wait. We shouldn't wait as board members, council members, town supervisors to go to the board meeting to communicate. That's the last place because it's really a boring meeting because it's all about legislation and approving applications and that kind of stuff. So that's one thing I think that would be very important to approve.
And one of the things is I like being active in politics. I couldn't tell you basically who's on the board, who's on the council, who's the supervisors, and that's maybe shame on me for not knowing, but also why aren't more of them, and if you get on and do this, I would love to see you do this, going to our local elementary schools, going to our high schools in the area, introducing yourselves, going to our colleges, Marist College, Vassar, going and making appearances and, just a few people that see you and say, hi, this is who I am, this is what I do, and introducing yourself and figuring out ways to be involved. And I feel like so many board members, council members, when they go to these public places, don't make themselves known where I think they should be known, because it would be much better if everyone knew. And I think as a representative of a local representative, if you're not trying to be known to your community, then why are you there? You know what I mean? Like you should want to be known because you should want people to come to you with complaints, with needs and things like that, so you can address them. And I'm not accusing anyone of anything because, like I said, I don't know, but I feel like me being someone who enjoys politics, not knowing our local politicians outside of, Mayor Rollison every once in a while when he was there, and I thought he did a fantastic job, and now he's over in the Senate. But it's, I feel like even outside of all the other things, just being at places, going to the Poughkeepsie High School game and letting the crowd announcer know so-and-so from here is here. So and letting them say, hey, they're here, they're cheering on our Piners. If you have any questions, go feel free and this and that. And those types of things to really make yourselves known, I think would be huge. Is that something that you would want to do if you got?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You're not going to have an issue with me not being in the public eye.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's true, Alex, across the board. I think
Yeah.
that's where we've kind of evolved to on both parties.
Yep.
That's something on both parties is that, you know, you're making a great point is that, people shouldn't be searching
Yeah.
and wondering where to find their. I mean, obviously that would be a good thing to do to try to find it, but people have busy lives or whatever. But this outreach, and I'll give you an example. What I've done already is that every ribbon cutting. I don't know if you know the ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
So if a new business opens up, so I'm there at all of them that are in the town or in the first ward, and some that are outside the first ward. I went to some that are outside of town, and you always meet somebody there who said, "Hey, I have a question about the town of Poughkeepsie. Maybe we can get together." So it's promoting the town, it's promoting yourself, I guess, if you want to say that, but it's promoting your community.
Well, you absolutely are promoting yourself because it's an interview, right? This whole process is an interview, and we're gonna hire you if we like you. So I feel like it's definitely a situation. I know that's if you're a humble person, it's awkward to do, right? If you're humble, it's really hard to promote yourself. But a campaign is quite literally, I am the best choice for you. This is why you should choose me. This is what I excel at. And it's tough. It takes a special person to be able to confidently go out there and say, this is what I'm good at. I'm better than this person at it. Choose me.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. I mean, and that's exactly right. So yes, that's exactly, just to close this out, exactly what I plan to do. I plan to be very public. I have been out, as I say, in the community, and at the end of the weekend, on Monday morning, I'm feeding back to the council and supervisors saying, "Hey, you know what this constituent told me? How come this hasn't been resolved? Or can we do something for this? Or we can change the schedule?" And then, that's how you do it. And by going to the schools, getting on the agenda, very important. The one strong thing that is good about the town of Poughkeepsie is that it's a ward. I mean, they call it wards here, okay, versus some of the places, districts or whatever. So if you're in a municipality, say, the city of White Plains, they have council, very similar roles, town board, council, okay. So they're councilmen and how they're voted in. So I believe in that case in the city, there may be 8, so there may be 4. I'm not sure. There may be 6 or 8. I don't remember in that city, but they're voted in on a first to last vote basis. So what you get in a city like White Plains, which is one happening where a lot of the Democratic wave came over, the south end of town has double population than the north end of town. The south end of town has primarily Democrat, where the north end of town has. So if you're running and you have 3 council seats, it's the top 3 vote getters. They're all from the south end of town.
Yep.
You could care less about the north end of town.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Poughkeepsie, you have more autonomy in your ward. So it's ward specific. There's 6 wards. So it's almost like you're, if you think about it from a layman's terms, you're a mini mayor in the ward. All right, that's your ward.
Yep.
And, the town supervisor's not your boss. Okay. He facilitates operations for the town. I would be the one as the town board first ward, the go-to person to be able to resolve problems, find out the people. And so it's my responsibility to obtain this job, that I should go to the neighborhood association meetings in that ward and extend past the ward so that people know who I am. I might have said it before, but as you know, I'm not politically, I have some political experience, but if I didn't want people look at my palm card and they say, "Hey, is this your personal telephone number?"
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why do you put that on there? I said, so people can get in touch with me.
I was shocked when you told me because that's how we got in touch. He was like, "Yeah, here's my number." I'm like, "That's your cell?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, oh, okay,
Right.
that's rather brave. In this
So
day and
that's
age, that's brave.
right. So when I go on a radio show like, WKIP and I say something good, well, the pager goes, my text goes off singing. And when I don't say something, but I usually say good things, not bad things. So, so that's why my email, and that's what I tell people, is that I am not in this. It could be a scary thing. You might have somebody come over your house or whatever. I mean, my address is on the Facebook now because you have to if you're a political person. I could have made up an address, I guess, um, but I'm living here in the community, so whatever the job pays is not an issue. It's that I want, if there's a problem, I want people to be in contact with me. And that's a little different than some of the other, political people. This is a very important job because, you know, how you fix this is you represent people. And by doing that, you come to talk to them and you make yourself available. And so far, I've seen I mean, I don't know what's happened in the past here in this town with, politicians, but people are kind of looking at me going, I've already seen you 2 or 3 times. Okay. So yeah, I want the job and I like the job and I want to be able to help you and I want to be able to help this town. So that's how I think you improve things is you get more involvement and more people to do that. So
Absolutely. I love that. And I think that's something that more politicians in general should want to do. But, I think unfortunately, a lot of people just want the title. Like a lot of things, they want the title and they just want to go and bask in that. But you definitely don't seem like the type of guy that just wants to do that. You want to get to work. Now,
well, it's not to interrupt you, but it's not a
yeah,
very good title. It's kind of a corny, town board first ward is not like,
I
one
mean,
of
it
the,
rhymes. At least it
right?
rhymes. That's pretty good. You
Well,
have a rhyming title.
yeah, I mean, it's not like, executive or something like this or vice president. It's town board first ward, so I don't care about the title.
So we got semi off track with your issues. I want to ask you, just bring up, we talked about police. We touched a little bit on fiscal, and I think we talked a good amount about, a little bit about the fiscal stuff. Well, I want one more issue that you're running on that is important that you think will connect to the people of Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, well, I think honest and open government and actively representing all residents. So, um, I put these principles on the back of my palm card and I point them out because this is what I believe in. So we have to all take a breath as politicians or as leaders and, apply the sunshine test to what we're doing. So are we honest in how we represent ourselves? Are we honest in what we say to constituents? And do we do the honest job? Do we devote the time to do the right work? I'm not taking this job or asking for this job so that I can get a title, which I don't even think is a cool title. And
maybe you could vote to change that. That'll be one thing.
Well, we could do that.
Vote to get a cooler title.
Well, I don't know what else to call it, but basically that it's like not a sexy title. It's not a sexy job, but I mean, we have to be open and honest and build consensus and, hear people. We have to listen. So if people may not, get what they want or they think they want in the end, but to have the opportunity to be heard and meaning to be listened to and have it investigated and looked into appropriately, that's a principle that I think that I can, and I, and I want to, and I'm going to make like 3 things into one, but
Sure.
I want to actively represent all residents. So party affiliation, and this is another thing, party affiliation means nothing to me. I have been to homes where members of the opposite party have told me to get off my property with using swear words. And, I mean, so when I told them as I was leaving, when I win the election, I'm still going to represent you. Okay. Because I will. Okay, so that's something, and then the third thing with that is really common sense, solutions that work across party lines that really benefit the town. So you're not going to get me to say, well, listen, this big investor wants to move in, or this organization, or like religious group, they want to buy properties on the Hudson River and then merge them and build this building, and then ruin a residential community. So so you know, common sense approaches that that affect the community in a positive way, but don't change or alter the community to the detriment.
So I
Of,
don't want to pin you down, but I actually don't like the phrase common sense. And I don't mind the way you're using it. The
Mhm.
reason why is because what's common sense to someone like me and you agree on a ton, right? I think we agree on most things. We talked about the Green New Deal. That's common sense to a leftist. So and we hear politicians say common sense all the time, right? Because we're thinking, get our fiscal house in order, make sure things are running well, yeah, save money where we can, cut the budget if we can, all these
Mhm.
types of things. To them, they're thinking grand scale, common sense. Let's save the planet. Let's make sure everyone can say and do whatever they want as long as they agree with what we want them to say. Like, so when you say common sense,
Right.
I just, I don't mind the way you're using it, but at the same time, I would just always, I guess, be careful, because when you're talking to some of these leftists, they don't have the same common sense
Yeah.
abilities we do,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but see, again, I qualify it. I
Okay.
say common sense solutions that benefit, okay, in a financial manner. And again, the the whole basis of my platform is, financial conservatism. So, I mean, we're not going to. It doesn't make sense, and it may make sense to some, to take a fleet of vehicles, as you say, and get rid of them all, and then come in and put all electric. So that may be a common sense solution to the Earth not falling down tomorrow, but it's not very much common sense when your budget's going to triple. Okay, so it's what the community wants. I mean, I guess, hey, Alex, if the entire community and town of Poughkeepsie is changing, so if the entire community is comprised of all left-wing leftists and they say this is what we want, then I'm their representative. If they vote me in and say, okay, well, here's what it's going to cost you, so you can take a vote on it. And if you want your taxes to go from 1,000 a month to 5,000 a month, and then drive around with electric vehicles, well, then you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So common sense, to me is it's effective change. It's common sense, communication. Right. Here's how we're going to communicate this common sense solution. Okay. And the communication is that, this is what it's going to cost the taxpayers. So yeah, I mean, and part of it is you have to fight some of that. I understand.
Definitely.
So, you have to move the town along, progress in a professional manner, but also involve the residents. Okay, because as a politician, you're going to have to agree to things sometimes that you're not 150%, because it's the will of the people. So the other thing I've seen, Alex, is this town is changing. I mean, it's gone from an IBM town, but don't think the IBMers that were here were all conservative Republicans.
No, not everyone.
The majority of them were Democrats.
Yeah.
So, but we're having an influx of, they're kind of moving along, and moving to different states, and we're getting a lot of people from New York City coming in, especially the boroughs, and from what I've met, they're very, very hardworking people and relatively conservative in their values, as far as, they want safety for their family. And so they're not people that want to come in and defund the police. not that I've seen. Um, Certain people that are running against the current administration want to defund the police. Okay, but so yeah, and I've been endorsed by the PBA. So I don't think anybody in the Democratic Party in the town of Poughkeepsie has been endorsed by the PBA. I'm not sure, but I mean I haven't really heard, but I don't. I'm certainly not the person running. Certainly not my opponent, and certainly my opponent didn't even try.
Well, because they knew that there was
Right.
no shot.
So,
So
but the opponent of the supervisor tried, but I don't think they, you know,
good.
because of her past. Yeah. So yeah, so those are kind of my principles and how I want to be able to, and I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm not saying, listen, I mean, I've been a campaign manager, I've been a district leader, in White Plains when I was traveling around and raising a family. I've had quite a bit of political involvement. Um, so, but just one thing, one thread is that, your role is to represent your constituents, and they better know who you are.
Yeah.
And they like to have you out there. I mean, I have a little tag when I walk around, say candidate for town board, and people gravitate towards that. They want to talk to you.
Yeah.
They're interested in what you think. They like that you're there. And so, people for the most part are not telling me, get away from me. All right. I get a few waves, wave off, get out, but that doesn't bother me because people want their privacy.
100%.
So yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
No, it is. No, you've been fantastic this whole time. So the last thing that I want to ask you, it's something that's important to me. And I know you're not in my ward. I'm ward number 2, but we're all town of Poughkeepsie here. Education, schools. Education has changed. I'm over here in Spackenkill. I don't know where ward number first ward.
This would be Wappinger.
Yeah, okay. So I'm over here in Spackenkill, and we had a very, very contentious board election a few years ago. And one of the things that concerns me is the schools have changed a lot, especially even since I've gone to school. Now it's many moons ago, but there is a lot has changed from where you were there to learn arithmetic and your math and education, where now they're trying to also create little adults more, for lack of a better term, trying to bring in a lot of adult topics to young kids very quickly. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people think it can't happen in my school. It doesn't happen in my school. These types of things we hear them on the news and they're all yahoos doing it in X places. Right. One of the people that won in my area specifically talked about bringing in diversity, inclusion, equity, which is something that sounds very nice, but that's a surface level thing. Social emotional learning is also involved here. I don't know how much you know about those two topics or how read you are in them, but how are you going to handle with the education sphere? I know the Board of Ed has a lot to do with what goes on in schools, what our towns do have a say. So what would your role, or how would you try to make your role as in the education sphere? Because that's very important to people as well.
Well, specific to that topic, and I've talked to a lot of school board members, and specifically in Spackenkill, because there are some issues.
Yeah.
But the board, correct me if I'm wrong, is more conservative now than it was.
It is now.
Yeah. Okay. So what's been happening is that the teachers can still implement things, and unless it becomes a complaint, then the board's not necessarily aware of it. And so they can implement, changes to curriculums, and, that the board will not be aware of.
Well, I'll tell you one right now. Right now, the Positivity Project is the one that's going through all the high school, middle school. I think it's at middle school and elementary school, and it's going to be coming to the high school. That is specifically a social emotional learning program. It's, it's not from Castle, which is the major big one around the country. But if you look on their website, they say it follows Castle. It's very, it's basically rubber stamped by them. And for people that don't know, if you listen to this show, you probably know we've talked about it enough times. But it is a method used by psychologists for kids that have had issues before, something that has traumatized them, and they need to be brought back into school. And now it's something being mainstreamed where every kid is going through a social emotional learning program. So that is something that, I don't know how much you want to touch that right now with the campaign or not, but
now, I don't know enough to I understand at a high level,
Yeah.
but I don't know
Right.
enough that but things I will react to is that we can only in the position as a ward leader or as a board member, um, you can get involved
Mhm.
when you have complaints. You can get involved a little more closely in the school. So I'll back up a little bit here
Yeah.
in my own style. So when the town board receives the town of Wappinger or the Arlington, they come in and present their budget and they present their, um, they present their mode of operation and all that. Well, that's where you start to challenge things. Okay, how are you doing this? And so that's number one. Number two, it's an involvement. So not just going there and waiting. It's like kind of proactive law enforcement. So not just waiting until an incident occurs, but coming in and understanding the process before something occurs. Okay. So, and that means involvement with the school meetings, like you say, showing up. Here's your community leader, and not just do that, but come in and let's have a meeting about what's your curriculum.
Yep.
Okay, and then getting involved in the teaching aspect, of showing your concern about it. Okay, publicizing the concern about it. Oftentimes, and this is what I've seen, school board members are by themselves. And the political people are saying, well, we really shouldn't be talking about that. All right. I mean, at a local level.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I've seen some pretty horrid school board meetings. I mean, not around here necessarily, but when, you're talking about opening up bathrooms to all different, and so the parents, in a lot of cases, if they have daughters, are upset about that, because they feel that they're being threatened. So yeah, I don't agree with many of these things. I think it's damaging. I think that because of the color of your skin, that should not be a negative thing to anyone. I mean, everybody forgets about Martin Luther King, right? That said that you shouldn't judge people by the color of this, what they're doing it now. And um, so I think with that, how I can begin to affect change there is to get more involved in what they're doing and I can't control what the school does.
No, no shot.
Right, because we're not managing them. We're not, this is not like New York City where many of the constituents come from New York and say, what are all these different things? Well, so yeah, because if they're in New York City, they get one tax.
Yep.
It's the school, the garbage, and the police, and everything on one. Now you got all these that. Well, if you're in Arlington, fire this side. So, so it's all about communication and about expressing. Hey, I don't, and then communicating to the public. Here's what's going on in the school system,
Yep.
and then supporting the school board. So, running for a school board, is an honorable thing, and you shouldn't be left alone because we're talking about our children. Some of the things I've seen and I've heard from constituents is that teachers have been communicating to students, and I think this happened in Arlington and in Wappingers. If memory serves me correctly, where teachers are reaching out to students, asking for their own personal cell phone number, so that we don't need adult-like people getting involved when you have issues, and we can talk to you separately. And the parents are furious because, this is not, America will never hopefully be a society where the school or the state tells your children what to do before the parents can get involved. And I feel very, very strongly about that. So if issues do come up in that regard, I will react to that.
So the bottom line, I think what Bill's trying to say here is, as a public servant, he can't act upon it on his own. He can't take it on his own volition to really go. But if you see something, especially when Bill gets elected, because I'm confident he's going to get elected, if you have something to say, you have his number. Quite literally, you have his number. Text him, call him, reach out with an issue so he can be your representative. And even if, and Bill, you'll probably say this, even if you're not in the first ward, even if he's just someone that he can relay that information as well. Because, what if someone that we don't agree with gets elected in your ward? They're still representing the town of Poughkeepsie. So, Bill is someone who's obviously made himself very accessible. And I think, Bill, you're going to be a fantastic town board first ward member.
Well, thank you very much. And I think that, Alex, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm so very, very glad that you became a member of the Republican committee.
Not official yet. I think in January, I'm going to get officially sworn in. I'm going to have to, cut my wrist open and drip the blood onto the evil, right here's altar.
Yeah, right. But okay. But that's it, is that we need, and every party, I mean, you should be able to have the freedom to stand up for what you believe in. And if you want to become a member of Democratic Party, the Working Class Party, the Libertarian Party, stand up for what you believe in and get involved. And it's all about understanding what people in your community need and want, what they fear, how they need help. And again, what I don't like to see is somebody who's embarrassed about being a left-wing liberal because they know they won't get elected in this community, call themselves something different, like we are the town of Poughkeepsie, disassociate themselves with their own party, and then in an effort just for self-interest to get elected. So stand up for what you believe, stick to it, but always remember that we're all part of the community. So you have to deal with people with respect
100%.
And honesty and integrity.
Absolutely.
Please don't lash out. Please don't make accusations. And let's all work together across the board so that we can do the right thing for the town of Poughkeepsie.
Absolutely. So once again, he's Bill Reuter. He's a candidate for Poughkeepsie Town Board of the First Ward. I think if you listen to this episode, if you're not voting for him, I don't know how. He is obviously a man that's passionate about doing the right thing. He has integrity, and he wants to be a local politician. He doesn't want to play national politics. He wants to help all of his constituents. Anyone, you probably met him if you're in his ward, whether it was a good or bad confrontation, you've seen his face, you know who he is. So definitely go out. Early voting, as you're listening to this, is underway. So go find your early voting station. If you have a mail-in ballot, absentee ballot, mail it in. And if you haven't done either of those things, on November 7th, next Tuesday, you can go and vote. So go look up your area to vote. And, there's 4,000 plus constituents in the first ward. There should be 4,000 voters. So go get out there and, go elect Bill, because he's going to be great. So Bill, anything, where can people reach you if they want to contact you? What do you want to promote before we jump out of here?
Well, no, you can Facebook me at Bill Reuter for Poughkeepsie Town Board. You'll find it, or the email is bill4townboard@gmail.com.
And Reuter is spelled Reuter, just for
R-E, right. In the German pronunciation, it's Reuter, and then the Americans seem to have made it Reuter. So,
yep. But I'm trying to say it the right way.
No, it's fine, but I go back and forth, but it's spelled the same way as the German news service.
Got you. So once again, this is the Alex Cuesta Show. I appreciate everybody for listening. If you liked what you heard, give a like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth and go find us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show. We will be back next week with another fantastic guest. David might be back. He might be a different gender. He might, we don't know. We never know what David does, but if he does come back, we'll make fun of him some more. So once again, everybody, thanks for listening. So long, all.